Hi, Jonathan Regan, also known as New Questions from Blockchain Education. We're going to do a morning wrap-up video, UTC time 2200. Pretty huge move by Bitcoin overnight. Nothing that wasn't perfectly forecast by our analysts at Blockchain Education. No need to brag or boast, but this is pretty much a classic descending triangle if I've ever seen one. We have multiple points running across the bottom here, which acts as our flat base. We have a series of lower highs. I'm going to stretch this sort of out like this. And as you can see, we have plenty of confirmation that there's a potential problem here. This is a lower high, and this is a lower high, and this is a lower high, and some more lower highs, and another lower high. And we sort of skirted, the price sort of skirted along this, the top of this triangle here. And this formation here, this is called a descending triangle. It's a pretty common sort of technical analysis formation that we find in other markets, and it absolutely doesn't surprise me one little bit that when we broke through the bottom of this particular triangle that we had a major drop down into this support level. Now, this particular support level was basically perfectly forecast by our analysts. We knew that this particular range here has a lot of activity right in this zone here. You can see that there's so much activity from here to here. I would say if you have a look at that percentage wise, we're probably spending 60% of the time inside this area. This becomes our support level. This is the perfect time to rebuy, and breaking below this descending triangle was the perfect time to sell. All of this being forecast and explained inside the chat platform that we run at Blockchain Education. Not a surprise that any of this happened. Company went into US dollar tether just below 10,000. I personally went there about 3-4 days ago. I knew that as soon as we couldn't get above this 200 moving average, especially with the 50 there, that things were looking bad. As soon as we got down into this area, I was telling everybody in chat, be really careful. And then when it broke, I was suggesting that sort of this area down here, this is our rebuy zone. Now, we don't know if it's going to go any further. I suspect it won't. I think that we'll probably clamber our way back a little bit. But this is a great example of when you have a professional team that's watching the markets for, weeks or months. We're looking at this sort of stuff and we're trying to get this right. And we knew that when it broke below that baseline, that was going to be a huge liquidation event, because at that point in time, there was literally hundreds of millions of dollars of longs in position on all the different margin leveraged exchanges. And I say it all the time in the community, when everybody else is going long, we need to think about going short. We're taking the flip side. It doesn't sound rational, but at the end of the day, when everybody's completely convinced that Bitcoin's about to explode back to $14,000 and they've all stacked their let's call them their bets, they're all going long. From a technical analysis point of view, we're looking at this descending triangle, looking at a series of declining highs. What is that, like 4, 5, 6, 10 in a row of lower highs and a pretty flat bottom with a known support area underneath it. I mean, it's just simple technical analysis, not difficult for our analysts. So great opportunity. I believe 13%, 14% overnight. If you shorted that market, congratulations, good job. Ethereum, I believe, was even worse. I think it went 19% overnight. And you can see that Ethereum was actually trying its best to show some sort of strength as Bitcoin began to falter. Now, this is Ethereum US dollar chart. So you'd have to sort of suggest that this area here, we're looking at a move that was potentially 30% in 2 weeks. That's all been erased now. I mean, look where we are back. We're back down in this area, down on this support level once again. So even Ethereum struggling to get out of this sort of known support area. Always been a great location to buy. Good accumulation zone. Once again, good accumulation here. Wasn't too bad. You got your 30% here. But as soon as we broke that 50, and then certainly when we broke that 200 moving average, you want to be out of Ethereum. Actually, this is probably the area where you want to be out of Ethereum, because you should be checking the Bitcoin, and that's when Bitcoin started to falter. Once again, not a bad place to pick up here as the ADI goes above 25. I got to say that not all altcoins suffered the same fate, and that's why the analysts and the algorithms are working so hard around the clock, because although Bitcoin declined 13% overnight, we've actually done a whole bunch of calls in the last 3 to 4 days that have actually gone up way more than that. So you can hedge into other altcoins if you actually know what you're doing. Let's have a look at some of those. I talked about some of those on the previous recaps. RCN doing absolutely crazy things in the last like 4-hour periods. Let's go back into the 45-minute candle here and just, I mean, look at that. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic uptrend all the way. Let's go put on some lovely bands and stuff, and turn on some custom indicators here. You can see that we had an early entry down here. Algorithms picked it up. It was called multiple times in the community, and you can see that although Bitcoin had this staggering bounce, we had a really nice bounce off this 50, which is expected, and I wouldn't be surprised if RCN goes on to make a series of new higher highs. This is to go nicely with a series of higher lows. You can see that we just have this nice series of higher lows, and the next one might be up here. We've also had a nice series of higher highs. You can see that we're just sort of making our way up nice and carefully. I wouldn't be surprised if we see RCN pop up into this sort of 500, 600 zone, even as Bitcoin declines in value. TNT, a similar story, another one of the calls and the signals that we've been providing to the community. Same sort of situation here, a little bit deeper. Beautiful entry by the algorithms down here. Been calling this multiple times. There's been multiple times that we've called this by the analysts and on the algorithm for the last like couple of weeks. And this also has a nice series of higher lows. We can see we have some just really lovely move. Even this recent dump in the last like few hours was technically a higher low. And this area here is starting to look like another higher high. If we see this 50 moving average turn up and we see the green bands continue up and the 200 moving average continues up, if we manage to sort of stagnate and run this way, then I wouldn't be surprised to see TNT, what do they call it, Tyrion, doing another higher high. And it doesn't really require it to go up that much to actually start appreciating against Bitcoin, especially when Bitcoin is now in a recovery phase, having done that 13 to 20% dump. One final one that we're going to talk about is Link, much the same story. Analysts and algorithm been enjoying this absolutely fantastic downtrend area here. And then let's change that to red to suggest it's a downtrend. And oh my God, Siri's going to go nuts in a second. Let's turn that one off. Beautiful downtrend area, followed by a sustained and impressive uptrend. We've been calling this multiple times. Great pullbacks, great opportunity to trade when it comes out of the top of the cave here. It comes back into the bottom of the cave. See, you can see this kind of cave running up here. Beautiful opportunity to sell, beautiful opportunity to buy. Rolled over a second time here, just below the 50, and then continues higher. Now, this, like those other couple that I talked about, represents a series of higher lows. You can see we've got a series of higher lows here. I wouldn't be surprised with the next higher lows up here. We also have a series of higher highs. Excuse me. This is another great opportunity. Still pretty positive here, really looking good. I think these three coins, along with about 12 others in our system, are going to continue to strengthen even as Bitcoin itself declines. Where to for now for Bitcoin? Let's have a look. That descending triangle is a horrible, horrible thing. Let's clean up this chart and turn on a few indicators. Probably made it a little bit worse. Let's try that again. Turn that one off. Excuse me. Just still dealing with some of these new indicators. So, right, let's try it that way. There we go. So, makes it pretty easy when you have the custom indicators that we're using inside blockchain education. Green means buy and hold. Red means sell or go short. We've got to say this is a pretty extensive period here. If we go back into the 4 hours, it's really been that way for the better part of 8 days now. So we're looking at a sort of an 8-day window where we have negative DI. ADX below 25. We're sitting under the 50 and the 200 moving average. The bands have rolled over. We're dragging along the bottom of the cave. This is all part of our methodology. You learn this through our educational training. We're not just a signals group, we're also an educational group. Might have learned something there. I hope you did. I'd really love to see you part of the community. You can save a lot of money by simply understanding where the market's going to go, and more importantly, you can make a lot of money. You can short moves like this and actually make a small fortune. At the top, we were looking at sort of a move out of the top here, down here, 23% short in 4 days with leverage. Are you kidding me? There's nothing on the planet that does this. Some of the members were asking why I was so sure that we were going to get this sort of move, and I was kind of suggesting, well, you know, there's a Fibonacci zone that kind of lines up pretty nicely. It's sort of just here. I'm not going to include this particular candle wick because it only lasted a couple of hours, but there is consolidation and resistance here and here, and so I'm going to use those, and this one specifically, the body of this candle here. And you can see that this basically gives us a really nice sort of this Fibonacci level, the 382, a 38.2% retracement from this high of recent times up here. So this area here was a pretty known area, and I knew that as soon as we break below this 382, we're going to end up here at a 50% retrace. And you've got to ask yourself, if Bitcoin runs 300% in about 140 days, are we going to get a 50% retracement? And the answer is, yeah, probably. And that's been coming. A descending triangle, a 300% move in just a little over 4 months, and a 50% Fibonacci retracement. All of this stuff is just standard stuff that we teach as part of blockchain education. It's all built into the algorithms. And as I mentioned, even though Bitcoin is in decline, TNT, Link, and RCN calls that continue to keep on giving, and I'm looking forward to higher highs and higher lows. Talk to you soon. Jonathan Regan, aka New Questions. We're doing a special right now on blockchain education. Definitely think you should join up, get into some of these signals, hundreds and hundreds of signals every week. And I'm starting to really ramp up my educational content now, the private stuff and this public stuff. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment, all that sort of stuff. Oh, exciting. Got my coffee right here. You know it's exciting when I don't even have a drink of coffee in the morning, and I've got so much to look forward to. 22:56. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers.